Kylian Mbappe, without a doubt, is a superstar. Possessing blitzing pace no one could catch up with, technique a tier above anyone else's, and guiding France to their second world championship at age 18 is enough to stamp his name down in footballing history as one of the most talented players to ever touch a football. In fact, many people were saying that Kylian would be the one to take over the throne, as Messi and Ronaldo would decline and exit football. But for the past year or two, the headlines surrounding Mbappe are worrying. From being pampered and catered to at PSG, a potential feud with his national team and manager Didier Deschamps, and a slow start to the season for a player who's deemed the best attacker in the world. Is there something wrong with Kylian? Has his ego gotten too big? Well, maybe, but let's look into it a little closer. And to start, it feels like he's detaching himself from the national team who catapulted him to stardom, as he has not been selected to play for France's national team in their two closing group games against Israel and Italy in the Nations League. French manager Deschamps stated that Mbappe wanted to come, and it was a one-off decision just for these games. But this comes after headlines leak that say Mbappe is not on good terms with the manager. I mean, he said that Kylian wanted to play, and he himself is not injured. So what would be the reason to not at least include him in the squad? I mean, Mbappe is the captain of the side, and is supposed to be one of the leaders. And he is someone who, no matter what arguments come his way, is always on point for the national team. This is simply unheard of, and to be honest, it's unacceptable. For example, imagine if Messi didn't want to come and play in their most recent World Cup qualifier match against Bolivia because Argentina would probably win anyways. It just feels so disrespectful to your nation. But does Mbappe have the power to kick Deschamps off the team? I don't know, but it would set a bad precedent for the rest of the team to know that your best player has the ability to command the National Football Association. And to segue to my next point, I think the reason he thinks he can do anything he wants is due to his time at PSG, who would do anything to keep him happy. As he was made the sporting director, he could choose the managers, the transfer policy of the club, his position on the pitch, as well as his salary, which was increased year by year by drastic amounts just to get him to stay. I mean, in his last 2 years at PSG, to keep him from going to Madrid, they paid him well over €1 million a week, essentially making him bigger than the club, and in turn, this would inflate his ego. But I don't think he could be blamed for this, as if it was anybody else in his position, they would feel the same way. And he would still fall out with the PSG owner, and reports came out that he would constantly complain about something. And it just looked like a bad look. And he was constantly using Madrid as leverage to gain more and more power from his old club. But look, even though I said all of this, his time at PSG could still be seen as successful, as PSG would get to their first Champions League final in 2020 before losing to Bayern Munich. And in his last season, PSG would be very unlucky to not go through Dortmund in the Champions League semi-final, as they would hit the post 6 times. And he did stack domestic trophies and awards while also being PSG's all-time top goal scorer. But now he is at Real Madrid, where he knows he will never be bigger than the club. Real Madrid even parted ways with a Cristiano Ronaldo who was at the peak of his powers instead of bending to his will. Mbappe will never have power, just like any other player at Real Madrid, and adjusting to this type of treatment will be, well, difficult, as going from a club that caters to your every need, cruising to league titles and domestic trophies without much competition, to now fighting tooth and nail for every trophy and understanding that you aren't the system anymore, and there's other world-class superstars beside you who also have their own agendas to score goals and make assists, like Vinicius and Bellingham, who even placed on top of Mbappe in Ballon d'Or voting, will be difficult. Sure, he's already one of the best players in the world, but it seems as though nothing in his game has gotten better overall since his rise to stardom, and his progression has flatlined. I mean, a few seasons ago, you would be laughed out of the room for comparing Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe, but now it's genuinely a conversation that could be had. While we're on the topic of Vinicius Jr., we may see a potential clash between the two, as both operate on the left flank. Sure, Mbappe has been playing on the number 9 role for Madrid, but it's clear that he works better on the left wing. But there's just one obvious problem. Vinicius is the best left winger in the world who guided Real Madrid to 2 Champions League titles and has a much closer connection to the fans, as he's grown from a scrawny 18-year-old kid who Benzema swore was playing against them to a top 3 player in the world. So Vinny is basically immovable at Real Madrid. However, some people say that they've seen this coming, as this summer at the Euros, Mbappe would play much lower to his usual standard, scoring just 1 penalty against Poland in the group stage. Mbappe would look much less dangerous and didn't participate in the penalty shootout against Portugal, which saw them reach the semi-final. And it seems as though this form may have carried over to his Madrid start, as he has played in 11 matches in La Liga, scored 6 goals, and also notched 1 assist. However, 3 of his goals have come from the penalty spot, which isn't a diss at Mbappe. Of course he's supposed to score the penalties he's given, but at the end of the day, it is the easiest way to score in a football match. Combining that with his and Real Madrid's uncharacteristic performances in the Champions League, they find themselves 18th in the table, right below German giants Bayern Munich, and it's clear to see that something is wrong. Although these stats are not terrible by any means, it's not the level of Madrid. And if he doesn't adjust to playing striker, well, there will be big question marks as to if he's really the world's best player. Unlike Vinicius, Mbappe has come at the age of 25, where most players are already developed, so he can't use that as an excuse. And with some pundits on Canal Plus, like Bertrand Latour, saying Mbappe will be on the bench soon is worrying, as this shouldn't even be a conversation. However, if he is benched, I don't think it will be too long, as that would just cause more problems if your highest earner and biggest name is on the bench. Real Madrid are in a crisis right now, with Carvajal and Eder Militao closing the season with their ACL tears and the attack struggling to find creativity. All of Real Madrid's problems can't be put onto Mbappe. But I think changes to the attack must come, as a midfield trio of Valverde, Camavinga, and Bellingham are not creative enough to supply Vini and Mbappe with the through balls they need. And with Kroos retired and Modric getting 1 year closer to that fateful retirement, Madrid definitely need changes. And there's a clear solution to the creativity problem, and I think his name is Arda Güler. I think if Arda was able to operate in the right flank, he would be able to feed Mbappe better, but Ancelotti will not trust the youngsters with both Arda and Endrick sitting on the bench. Look, all in all, I have no doubt in my mind Mbappe will figure it out and get back to his superstar ways, but for right now, we have to be honest about his regression. Look, it's only November, so I know he still has times to turn things around. I think Mbappe needs to apologize to the national team and be ready to play in every fixture necessary, even if they are quote-unquote small games. And also, he needs to swallow his pride and understand Vinicius Jr. is not going anywhere and get used to playing that number 9 role. But what do you guys think? Am I over-exaggerating Mbappe's woes, or has he already peaked as a player? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.